Oh, hello, my name is Professor John Benjamin, and this is Motion Graphics. This is lesson 4, where we'll be going over masks. All right, as usual, open up After Effects. If you have an old project open, you might go ahead and say New Project if you want to get to this blank screen. All right, we're going to say New Composition. I'm going to say Main Comp. All right. And so the first thing I want to show you is how to bring in some images into After Effects. And you can bring in your own image for this exercise. You can really use any image. What I'm going to show you is this really great place called The Noun Project, so thenounproject.com. And it has lots of really simple vector images that you can use. Most of them are for purchase, and if you want to use one for this exercise, you can use it for free under the Fair Use Act, because you're using it in an academic setting for an academic exercise. But you cannot use these images unless you buy them. They're usually about $3 a piece, without giving attribution at least, on your own if you're going to put this in your portfolio. So just be really clear about that. The Fair Use Act allows us to use imagery such as this for academic purposes, but as soon as it becomes a project for your portfolio or something that you're going to sell, you need to either buy it or give attribution. Okay, so in this case, I need a clock. I want something for time, and I might typically just be like, well, how have other people looked at time? And that's primarily what the Noun Project is for, is to be like, what are some other ways of visually representing time? So I'm just going to come down here and write time. Oh, and you'll have to make an account. It's a free account. And if you don't want to, like I said, you can use any image for this exercise. I'm just kind of showing you the Noun Project. All right, so then we can kind of see here that all the different kind of ways that time might be represented. And sometimes they're really basic, but sometimes they're ways that maybe you didn't normally think of. All right, so I want a little clock, just something really simple. I like this one with the arrow. And so I'm going to click on that, and I can say, get this icon. Now, see, it says it's a Creative Commons license, but it's CC BY. So in other words, it's free for you to use, but you have to give attribution. All right, so I'm going to say, get this icon. Now, if you download the Pro, the $2.99 royalty-free license, that means that you pay one fee, and then you don't have to give attribution, and you can make changes to it and whatnot. But for this case, you can just use the basic download. It's free, but you can't customize it, and you need to attribute the creator. And it says it right there, created by Saif Frajal from the Noun Project. Okay, so you can just hit continue and go ahead and download. You can download an SVG or a PNG. Just quickly, SVG is a scalable vector graphic, and so that's something you can change and manipulate in Illustrator as a vector. And a PNG is a portable network graphic, and that is a image that can have transparency around it. So for this case, we're going to use a PNG. Okay, so just click on that and download it. And then you're going to come back to After Effects, and as always, you want to save your project. So I'm going to call this one Masks, and save it in a good place so you can find it. And the same goes for your downloaded icon. You want to make sure that you take it from your downloads and put it in a good folder where you're going to remember it. Right, so like so. I'm going to take this little PNG and put it in my Kinetic Type folder so I can find it later. And there it is. Okay, and so we want to bring this into our project panel. Right, there's our main comp, and so you can bring it in a lot of different ways. My favorite way is to just drag it in. All right, so now that we've got an image file in here, you probably want to make an images folder so things don't get too messy. For this exercise, it's going to be pretty simple. But you want to make a good habit of that. So let's go ahead and make one for our compositions. And one for images. Great. All right, so here we are on the main comp. And I'm going to go ahead and drag this down into here, and there it is. I'm going to make it a little smaller and put it right about there. All right. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to make a sort of a pun, if you will. So I'm going to type in here, what time is it? Question mark. All right, and I'm going to come down to my paragraph panel, and that's centered, that's good. And I want to choose a different typeface. Back to my character panel. One of my favorites I'm going to use. You can use any typeface you like in here, but Azo Sans Uber is a really cool one. Scrub that down a little bit. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and type below that. It's the right time. That's the pun. Haha. And for this one, I'm going to choose a handwritten typeface. So you can kind of look in your typefaces for something that's a little more handwritten, and there's a lot of variety. Okay, so there's the pun. What time is it? The right time. And using this, I'm going to illustrate three masks, three common masks. There's many ways to mask, but these are the three common masks, and it's a very important tool in After Effects. So first off, we want to stagger or stair step. And so I want this to show up first. This is my little clock. And I'm going to move that up but it pops in first. And then the next time is, what time is it? I want that to pop in next. And then the right time. All right, so there's our stair steps. Clock, what time is it? The right time. So the first mask we're going to create is the most basic mask. And all you have to do to create it is have an object selected. So you can see I have that selected here. And then I can go up here to my rectangle tool. Now there's other options that you could choose, a star or an ellipse or a rectangle. I'm just going to choose a rectangle. And then I'm going to click and drag a mask over my little clock there. Okay, and then you can see automatically the mask is ready to manipulate down here in the mask layer. Okay. So now the one thing, this is a little troublesome, is let's say you want to move this now. Well, they're automatically linked together. All right, that's fine. I'll show you how to use the mask to your advantage. First off, let's take a look here. Here's the object and here's the mask. If you click on the mask itself, you can manipulate it. So I can go ahead and click off it and click on. I can grab a corner or another corner. And so you can change the mask. You just have to click on the vector mask itself. All right? Because if you click on the whole thing, they move together. All right, so now let's go ahead and animate the mask. Okay, so we're going to go down here to the Noun project, and I'm going to open up this mask, and I'm going to animate the mask path. So hit the stopwatch, great. Move your CTI up, let's say to right about here, and then add another keyframe. And so what I want to have happen is the mask sort of animates to reveal the clock. All right, so how am I going to do that? So here is my first keyframe, and here I'm on my second keyframe. And so I can just click on the whole mask. So click on this, and then click on the mask. But the tricky part is you have to, if you want to manipulate the whole mask, you have to hold the Shift key down and click on each anchor point like that. Now I can move the whole thing together. Right, so I'm just going to go ahead and move this up like so. And then if you come down here to your CTI, you can see that I've just sort of animated it. And if I click off it, we'll see how that plays out. And that makes it disappear. All right, so but I wanted it to actually reappear. So let me just show you a quick trick. Let's say you made a mistake, or that's kind of what you wanted to do. So you can select these two keyframes. You can right-click on them, and the keyframe assistant, you can say time reverse keyframes, and they'll just flip. There you go, now it appears. Now even easier than that, I can go ahead and just swap those keyframes. So I can click on this one and put it back here, like so. And now I'm back to where it sees the clock and then the clock goes away. What I want is the opposite. So just know there's two ways to do that. You can just swap the keyframes, or you can reverse them if you don't want them to move. All right, so there's my first part. Clock comes down. Okay, what time is it? Now, for what time is it, I'm going to show you the more common and easier to manipulate type of mask. And so for this one, we're going to start the same way. Just don't have what time is it selected. Have nothing selected. You can either click off or just hit Command-Shift-A to deselect. All right, and then we're going to come back up to the rectangle, and I'm going to draw a rectangle like so over what is it. And that's just a rectangle. It's a box. That's all it is. All right, I'm going to go back to my Move tool, and I'm going to make sure that what time is it is directly below the shape layer. Okay, so you can see over here, here's the rectangle. There's what time is it. Okay, with what time is it selected, I'm going to go to Layer, Track Matte, Alpha Matte. All right, it disappeared. All right, cool. But it's still, what it's done is it's transformed that box into a mask. So now I can go to the shape layer and I can transform it. So, well, what I'm going to do is close this up and just hit position. All right, so let's say here, without even keyframing, I'll just change the position. And you can see that that box is now a mask. So what I want to do is line it up with the bottom, because now I want what time is it to pop up. And so it comes just like the clock did from out of nowhere into the scene. Okay, so I'm going to close up the shape layer and now come down to what time is it and hit position. All right, I'm going to hit my stopwatch, move my CTI up, add another keyframe, and then I'm going to go ahead and move back because I want to manipulate this keyframe. All right, and then I'm just going to slide it down. Great, and then you can see that it will slide up. So here's our animation so far. Reveal, reveal, and then boom. All right, two really basic masks. And of course, as always, you're probably going to want to select those two and say Easy Ease. All right, you could do the same thing with the shape layer. Very nice. Okay, so now the next mask is a little more complicated, but it's a fun one. All right, so you can close those two up. And it's the right time. So what I'm going to first do is zoom in. You can zoom in here. Just go ahead and 200%. Or you can hit Alt on a PC, but it's Command on a Mac and minus, minus, plus, plus. All right, that's just a good way to... you can also scroll your mouse. Now the other little handy tool is once you zoom in, let's say I'm using the scroll on my mouse, I can hold down the space bar, turns it into a hand, I can kind of move around. So then I can zoom in more and sort of move around. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is use the pen tool. Now if you're not used to the pen tool, if you haven't used Adobe Illustrator, this might be a little tricky, but I'm just going to kind of move ahead. And I can give you lessons on Illustrator in a different tutorial. But here's your pen tool. Okay, how does a pen tool work? We're just going to draw by clicking and click dragging over the top of these letters. All right, so I'm going to click, and then I'm going to click again. And you see I get a little vector line. All right, and then I can come up here, and I'm going to click, and just kind of, you're drawing a line by clicking. All right, and I can kind of go up here, and I can come back. What you're basically doing is you're trying to draw over the top of all of the letters. All right, and now if you click drag, watch this. Instead of just clicking, click and drag, and you get a curve. Click and drag, you get a curve. So that way, this will look a little more natural. So I'm going to come back over here, and I'm going to come up here, and then down here, though, I'm going to click drag, up here, and essentially you're just tracing over all of the letter forms. And there's lots of different ways to do this. Depending on the typeface, you might want to change how you do it. But essentially, you're trying to draw over it as if it's how you would write it. And you can see, you'll see later, it'll appear more natural the way you draw this mask. You can change it later. There we go. You can kind of come out here, do that later. All right, so now I'm going to command minus minus. I've drawn over it. All right, now we're going to add an effect to this. So we can go up here to effect and come down to generate, effect, generate, and stroke. So we just added a stroke to that pen tool line that we've drawn, that vector line. Now right away here, it's automatically white. You want to change it to something that's really obvious so you can really see it changing. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to change the brush size. And you can see what's happening. We're making it bigger. It's covering things up. And that's pretty good. You'll also want to change, you want to check all masks. All right, so then you want to go ahead and click off it. And you can see there's a couple places where the mask isn't really covering things up. So now I'm going to go ahead and Command++, use my spacebar as a hand tool, and zoom into some of these places. I can go ahead now and I can move these little anchor points around so that they cover up those little black spots that didn't get covered up. Just kind of look around here. Here's one. There we go. And that's about it. Great. And I'm going to command minus minus. Oh, there's one that I missed. Nice. And if you command shift A to deselect, then you can really kind of see it. There's another one over here, but we're just going to let that go. All right, now the next thing you're going to want to do is where do you want the mask to be or the stroke? Right now it's on original image. We want it to reveal the image, okay? And then we are going to animate this little where it begins and ends. So I'm going to hit the stopwatch for end, and then I'm going to go ahead and move up my CTI, and then I'm going to decrease this to 0%. Now what that's done is it's kind of writing it backwards once again. So that's going to go like that backwards. All right, so I just want to show you once again that you can just swap the keyframes. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up, and you can see I've got a couple of dots there under effects and under stroke. All right, and I can do that same thing again. I can swap those two and just right click and say reverse keyframes. All right, and now it's going to look like it's writing. So again, if you want to click off it to deselect it, or just Command Shift A and then play that through, it looks like it's handwritten. All right, so I'm going to hit Command minus again, and we'll play that whole thing through. Another great key command, sometimes see how these can get really messy down here? If you just select it and hit U, U will kind of close things up. So you can toggle U 3 times, 1, 2, 3. And you can do that too for everything. So if everything's really messy, just hit select all, and then just hit U to close things up. All right, let's see how that looks. The right time. All right, and that's masking, a very important part of After Effects. So good luck with your assignment.